Hi everyone, my name is Tavo. Welcome to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk about painting Haunted Mansion wallpaper. Now, the Haunted Mansion is one of my favorite rides of all time at Disney. It is always the first ride that I get on every time we go to any of the Disney parks. And I've always dreamed of one day having my own Haunted Mansion bedroom for years, and now as a 26-year-old adult, I've finally made it happen. Now obviously the wallpaper is one of the most iconic things on the ride, and that's the only option I had to paint my bedroom. And so I'm going to show you how I did it in the best way I found. One thing to note, this paint job took a lot longer than I anticipated. I took a week off from work, got the room ready, and thought I could do this in about 2 to 3 days. It ended up taking me probably closer to a month to finish it. I did the base color and the texture in 2 days, including the ceiling, which I painted black. And the stenciling is what took the longest. That's where I had the most trouble. I had never used a stencil before, and I had to kind of trial and error my way through into making this look a lot cleaner and what I really wanted. So with that being said, let's get into it. So first things first, I taped off all of the moldings, all of the frames around the doors, and the corner of the ceiling before painting. That way you get a nice good line in between. And then I'm going to paint around those edges first. This color that I'm using for the base is called Morning Glory by Sherwin. And then going in with a bigger roller, I'm going to do the first coat across the whole wall of the same color, and then I will be doing a second coat that I did off camera. Don't worry if this first coat looks a little messy. I promise once you do that second coat of paint, it'll look so much better. And of course, when you're painting, make sure that the room is ventilated. I had 2 huge windows in this room, and I made sure that they were both open, curtains were down, and made sure there was enough air flowing through there. You can see that the fan is on as well. This paint did definitely give off a lot of fumes, and it took a few days for it to go away. And once I had the wall painted in both coats and they were both dry, I took a sea sponge and in the color Dahlia just lightly tapped it on, trying not to make a pattern or anything, just trying my best to make it look random and more natural. I did come back over in certain areas, made the spots a little heavier and gave it some shape, just to give it more of an aged look. This color is a little harder to see that I'm doing now. It's called Valiant Violet. I went over everything just to break up the Dahlia color. It is a bit of a darker color, and while it's wet, it kind of resembles the base color a little bit, but it does dry a little bit darker. And in the end result, I did this off camera. I decided that the Dahlia was a little bit too harsh, and so I went back over in Morning Glory using a sea sponge and kind of softened everything up a little bit more. For the stencil, I did mark off with some tape about where I wanted every stencil to be, and the back of the stencil is sprayed with Krylon Easy Tack repositional adhesive. That's how it's sticking to the wall. This is something you're going to have to spray a few times. I was able to maybe do 6 to 8 stencils before I had to reapply, because it does start to fall off the wall after a while, just depending. And using a stencil foam roller that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, I applied a light coat of paint and a little bit of firm pressure. You're going to want to be careful with this.
you don't want to put too much paint on the brush, or you might end up having some bleeding. And then you want to be careful in the direction that you're going. There's some areas where I went up and down, there are some areas where I went left to right. It just depended on how the stencil moved. You'll kind of see that some areas, specifically below that top face, if I went up and down, the stencil was moving, but if I went left to right, it was fine. And you're going to want to be a little careful with the bottom mouth. One of the pieces for me kept kind of popping up, and so I would be really gentle and slow in that area. And then once you're done, you just carefully peel it off, and you're able to reapply and do it again. And after I did that bottom row, instead of having to tape everything out about where I wanted it to be, I just used the faces themselves to kind of mark where I wanted everything. I used that top face, kind of divided it in half, and that's where I wanted the side of the stencil to be. And then just above that heart shape that you can see there where the corner is where the bottom of the stencil should be. Alright, now this is the part that was the hardest to do for this paint job. I tried several times with that eye stencil to try to do these eyes. It was not working. I don't know why. I had tested it before and it worked fine. This time it just wasn't happening. I do have textured walls, and I did test this on a flat surface and it worked fine. So if your walls are flat, it might work a little bit better for you, but for me, I had to say screw it, and I had to paint all the eyes by hand. But I did cheat a little bit. I did hang up some pictures, including the stretching portraits, and I only painted what was seen. If it was under a picture or a portrait, it did not get painted at all. And once all of the eyes were done, the room was ready. I hung everything back up. I put all the decorations back out, put all the furniture back. And I did notice, once I had painted all of the purple on, that the room got a lot darker. And the only light source in that room was that fan, so I'm trying to incorporate more lights into that room. I got some more candelabras, and I'm hoping to get some antique lamps to go in that room, at least one. Now, I'm not completely done with this room yet. I do have some more things I want to do, including painting the doors and the molding, and a couple other things that I'm going to save for other videos. So please subscribe, stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.